We're going to look at the last section of taxation and shares. This is looking at taxation on dividends. So let's have a look how it works. Basically, what used to happen was that the company would pay tax and then on their profits, which then they'd split up into dividends, and then you'd get the dividends, and because it was income, you'd pay tax as well. So what happened was that the government was double dipping and getting too lots of tax. So they changed the rules and came up with a thing called dividend imputation, which basically means that the company pays tax on the dividends at the company tax rate of 30%, and depending on your marginal tax rate is depending on how much tax you pay. So if they pay 30% on the dividends and your tax rate is 30%, you pay no tax. If your tax rate is lower than 30%, then you get money back. If your tax rate is higher than 30%, then you'll get a reduced amount of tax that you pay. So it's quite a good little thing. It's called dividend imputation. Now, fully franked dividends have tax paid at 30%, but sometimes companies will partially frank them. So it might be 50% franking or 75% franking. It's really up to them what they do and how they manage that. Now, the deal is, if your marginal tax rate is below the company tax rate, you'll get a refund, and it has benefits for anyone who gets dividends, because it either reduces your tax or gives you a refund, or you pay no tax on the dividend. So it makes that dividend investment more attractive, hence getting you to hold your shares longer. Let's have a look at what happens. You get a little slip like this which will tell you stuff about your shares and your dividends. So here you've got ordinary shares, that's the class. Here the rate, that means what per share it is, so this is 15 cents per share, just here. Then next to it is the number of shares that you own, so you own 2,530. This amount here is the unfranked amount, which means how much dividend you're being paid without tax being paid on it. This one here is the franked amount, which means the amount of dividend you get paid with tax on it. And this is the imputation credit, which is the bit that goes to the tax department. So the company releasing these dividends don't know your tax rate and don't care about your tax rate, they're just working it out for themselves. So this number here, 15 cents times 25330, gives us that, which is 379.50. Then they multiply that by 30 over 70 to get 162.64. 30 over 70 because it's 30% tax rate. So let's have a look at what you do next. Let's have a look at the question. Calculate the tax owing, and then the after-tax return if you have the shares above, those ones there, at a marginal tax rate of 17% and then B at 47%. So let's look at A first. The income declared is how much money that it looks like you have earned. So it's the unfranked amount, add the franked amount, add the imputation credit. That was my phone, anyway. So unfranked amount, add franked amount, add the imputation credit. So it's that amount there, add that amount there, add that amount there. Now in our case, we haven't got any unfranked amount. So our income declared is $379.50, add $162.64, and $542. It gives you $542.14, which is pretty cool. Your tax liability then is your income declared times by your marginal tax rate. So the income declared is this, your marginal tax rate is 17%. So you times the two together, and you're liable to pay $92.16. Okay, so that's how much you should be paying. But you've already forked out, well, the company's forked out on your behalf $162.64, which is the imputation credit. So therefore, you should be entitled to a bit of a refund. So the tax owing is your tax liability minus your imputation credit. So that's $92.16, take $162.64, gives you minus $70.48, which means that they owe you $70.48 because your tax rate is 17%, which is below that 30%. So that's pretty cool. So if your tax rate's below 30%, you will get a refund. So your after-tax return is $379.50 is what you get in your pocket, plus, because you're owed some money, $70.48, so it gives you $449.48. So you're getting $450 back. That's pretty cool on what you've got. So have a look at the next bit. We're now looking at 47%. So your tax rate is higher than the 30. So same thing, income declared, unfranked amount, plus franked amount plus imputation credit, which gives you 379, add 162, gives you 542.14, same as before. Your tax liability, same deal, 542.14, but now it's times by 47%, so it's $254.81. Okay, so you're meant to be paying $254.81, but you've only paid $162.64 because that's what the imputation credit is. Your tax owing is your tax liability, take your imputation credit. So it's $254, which you should be paying, take $162, which you've already paid in the imputation credit, which gives you $92.17. So you owe them $92.17. As you can see, my typing is great there. It says you are owed $92.17. So you have to owe them, you've got to pay an extra $92.17. So what does this mean for your after-tax return? It means $379.50, take $92.17 equals $287.33. So it reduces how much money you get put in your pocket, but you don't pay 47% tax on the whole lot, which is pretty cool. Now, how do you calculate the imputation credit? Because people, the end bit of that table had that number, and that was 30 over 70. So the way it works, is like this. Pretend we've got ordinary shares, 24 cents each. That one times that one gives us our franked amount. Okay, 0.24 times 1260. Then to get this, we go 302, get this number here, $302.40 times by 30 over 70 gives us that. Because that 30 is the tax rate, and then we use it to work out the imputation credit like that. So that's the way you can work it out. So if you just remember 30 over 70, then you're home and hosed. Now, there's questions in your workbook on page 12, and these all have got to do with imputation credits. If you get stuck, go back and have a look at the video again, see how you go, all good.